Number two,
don't say.
the Gemara says Shmami no ein nice adayim, which means a small chitzon no ein nice adayim should not work. And there's a chiddush ein nice adayim, and yet the Gemara stipulates that it only works with the rabbanon. Huge stores the rabbanon. By kiddush hachodesh d'oraisa, it doesn't work.
Could it be a suffix and not a.
What?
Could it be a suffix? Maybe yes, let me know.
Be a suffix too, but not to say vada yes.
Yeah, right.
Shmuel says vada yes not. The answer is by the rabbanon yes, and the oraisa no. So the oraisa no. That's a miskah. Okay. So we want to know what is the svara chitzono, what is the source of the oraisa ein nice adayim. This is the subject matter today. So there is a Tosfot here. There's a Ksois. There is a Beis Halevi, and there's a Kiveya. Okay. I want to relate today to the Ksois and the Beis Halevi. It's printed in the papers. Gave out Ksois, the Beis Halevi. I want to explain the svara of the Beis Halevi. Why ein nice adayim? Beis Halevi brings down a very strong kasha. He makes a chiluk. I want to explain what he says. So let's start with the Rishonim. Toisvis in Daf Chof Adaf Amud Beis in Ksubis brings down. Anach leidus hachodesh d'oraisa. The last Toisvis in the page. Toisvis says, "Ubedoraisa ein nice adayim." In the Torah, en nice adayim, the Rabbanim keep stores, and a becomes a dam. The time of the reason is, I says, what's the reason? What's the reason ein nice adayim? The ein nice adayim mishum the ba'ino, because we need sheyahidu lifnei adayonim. We need them to give a testimony in front of judges.
That's the forward, not the forward.
Oh, where do we know it from? Kemoshe Rosh Hashvan Dechsiv ve'omdu shnei anoshim. Two men will stand. Elu ha'edim, those are the witnesses. Lifnei Hashem, in front of Hashem. Elu ha'dayonim, those are the judges. So Rashbam breaks down as a Tixeras HaKosher from the Torah. That what? We need Eidim to be in front of judges. So if the aid is the judges themselves, so I don't have, you can't have it. Now, this is very hard to understand what this is. Wow, I'm going to explain my question. One second. Ein nice adayim means in one shot or one after the other. I was an aide. For example, here we have three people. Three judges. Two of the judges recognize the signatures, the third one not. So now, the two of the judges that recognize the signatures, they giving a testimony to the third judge that they recognize the signatures, and now they're acting as witnesses, right? Now that the third judge, he has witnesses that testify in front of him, they sign together with that judge, and they become judges. On what? On what they told him, or what they know themselves?
Same thing.
No,
Let's see.
Says, but what is the thing?
Again. Two witnesses, we have three judges. Two of the three judges recognize the signatures. They go ahead and they say a testimony to the third judge, and they recognize the signatures. Okay? How can the third judge becomes a baby? He maybe brings two of his friends, and after he receives the testimony, he goes away. He go away and now he's left. Okay? And now, the two witnesses that were telling the third judge with other judges that was the story. Then they become judges with the third judge, not because they heard a testimony saying to him, to the third judge, came out of their mouth. So when they came out of their mouth, the third judge also heard themselves what he said. And they're becoming judges on themselves. No, they know themselves what they saw. They don't need a testimony for themselves.
Why not?
The Gemara says Shema Mino, three things. Shema Mino Einai Sadayim, and Shema Mino that the Eidim become judges. They don't need a testimony being said to them. They judge upon what they know. So even without talking to the third guy, they will become judges of what they know. So they're not judging on what they said to the third guy. They're judging on what they know. So wait a second. So what do we have here? We're separating the testimony that they testified to the third guy to what they are judging. So what's the problem of the Rashbam? Rashbam says, let's go over again the Rashbam. Let's see the Rashbam.
You know is equal to the
I'm saying if it happens in one shot, and it's saying the Rashbam, but if it happens in two stages, what's wrong? Let's see. The time of then A nice a dayan. Why A doesn't become a dayan? Mishum the ba'inon sheyahidu lifnei hadayonim. I need them to give a testimony in front of judges. I mean, Tosfot. Dechsiv ve'omdu shnei anoshim elo ha'edim. Two men, which are the witnesses, will stand in front of lifnei Hashem ha'edim hadayonim. That's what they need them to do. Right? So what will happen here in the case if on the same 1 minute when they give a testimony to the third judge, they're also witnesses and judges. Because the third judge didn't bring friends to become judges. He's alone there. Somebody showing him learned the sugi that he brought somebody else on the street. And they're just gone later on, so they become afterward judge upon themselves. But if he didn't bring nobody else on the street, that's the simply the Rashi learns and others. That's a simple shot in the Gemara. So they gave a testimony in front of this judge, and then they become judges upon what they know, not what they said. So there's two different actions. When they give a testimony to the third guy, there were witnesses reference to the third guy, so they gave a testimony in front of court. And afterwards, they don't become witnesses to themselves and become judges. They just follow their knowledge and they judge upon their knowledge, but not witnesses.
That's acceptable. How do you know that's acceptable?
I'm saying if you follow the reason of Rashbam, what the Rashbam is saying, what's the time? What's the reason? You follow me? What? What's the reason? Toshi says, what's the shot? No, that's the Israel force. Tosis brings down Rashbam. He says, I need the witnesses to give a testimony in front of judges. And if the judges are themselves, so they're not in front of judges, it's a separate entity, they're themselves. Right? But what would happen if I'm separated? The two witnesses give a testimony to the third judge with others, and then afterwards, they become judges upon their knowledge. Will be a problem of Einai Zadayim? Or to the Rashbam? No, it should be a problem. If it's like the Ram learns that Shana Osugi is that they become in one shot judges and witnesses. That's what the Ram says. The Ram says, the Kiva speaks about it, it's not true. But simply what the Ram says, I don't bring nobody from the street. Two judges recognize it. They recognize the signatures, and the third judge doesn't. So they are giving a testimony to the third judge. And the same moment that they're giving a testimony to the third judge, they become judges that this testimony was received by three judges.
They heard their own words.
They heard their own words, and they become also judges upon their own words. That this single judge is not sitting alone. He has another two judges with him. That this testimony is being received by a judgment, by judges, by Beis Din. So they're giving a testimony, become 80, and also the Dayonim to be attached to the third judge. The testimony is being received in front of three judges. So they're saying a testimony Eidus and becoming judges on that Eidus, not for themselves, but for the third judge. But they're becoming 80 for the third judge and also Dayonim for the third judge. So that's a problem. And then I said, I understand. Okay. So then because the Torah says, no, now you have to stand, and you have to say testimony, and the base, in front of the base. And now you are the base, you the Eidim as the base. Okay. Still has to be two entities. Eidim saying a testimony from the court. And here they're not saying it from the court because they themselves are the court. So there's a problem. Got it. If you don't like Deran, I understand. But if you're in Pashas not like Deran, then what? That the pshat is that two witnesses are saying a testimony to the third judge, but the third judge is not sitting alone. He brought two other judges with him to have a basic, or he's a Dayan Mumche. The Dayan Mumche that can work, that can receive aids. Okay? So Dayan Mumche, Loikim 3 times, the Loikim Mumche, they go on beginning of Masechet Sanhedrin. Because how do we know we need Bezdin? Loikim, so not Mumche 1. So, or there's 3 answers in the Rishonim. Or that third judge added 2 judges from the street. And afterwards, they are gone. Those 2 people are gone. And the judge is left alone with the knowledge that the two judges gave him a testimony. And he received testimony with another 2 judges from the street, and now they're gone. So now he's all alone. So he wants to use the 2 judges that told information, that they'll become judges also because they have the knowledge. And they can judge upon the knowledge, not upon what they said. And it works. This is one pshat edition. Or that the one dying becomes a dying mumchi. We can look in the Rishonim here, it's all printed in the papers. Let's look inside. Let's look here. Or the third pshat would say, hear what you're saying. The third pshat is, which is a simple pshat, the way Rashi learned. The third pshat is the way the Ram learned that this single judge is not bringing 2 judges from the street, and he's not a dying mumche, a professional judge. Rather, the 2 friends judges that gave him a testimony, they're in the same moment, bevas achas. In the same moment when they're giving a testimony to the third judge, they also can become judges. They also become judges to judge, to be attached to the single third judge upon what they told the third judge. So here we have mamish. They play in the same hat in the same moment. The Rashbam says no. The Torah says two people stand in front of Bezdin. So there's 2 entities, 2 people, and Bezdin. And here the 2 witnesses are part of the Bezdin. So it doesn't work. The Torah says it's no good. That I understand. So according to the Ran, I understand it's out. But according to the Ramban, another Rishonim. What? The Shloch Ksav Yad, yes. If according to somebody show you so.
Yeah, so doesn't that explain it?
No. If he send you in writing to Bezdin, when it reaches Bezdin, then you write it becomes a testimony. In that moment, you cannot judge yourself your handwriting. Same thing. If you send you a testimony in handwriting, can you judge your handwriting?
Wait.
You jumped the gun. I'm giving you now. I give you a shot. I gave you a range to shot. If you send your testimony to court and you know the testimony to court works, and now I want to judge my writing, it's the same thing. A witness cannot become a judge. Same problem.
But you're not before the base in. They're not before the base in, and they could be in another town.
Doesn't matter. But when my testimony becomes a testimony, as we saw the Nesivos, is only when it reaches court. Remember we went together? So then when it reaches court, then he becomes a witness and also cannot become a judge. Same time, doesn't work.
Is it when
Oh, so I'm saying in this case of a shtar, that you can judge your shtar, those who hold like Rabbeinu Tam, that you can write your testimony in a shtar. And when it reaches the court, then your testimony becomes effective. At that moment, you cannot become a judge on your writings. A person that signed on the shtar cannot become a dime on the shtar because then he dies a dime. He becomes Vasarets. So that's definitely one shot. So then understand the Rashbam. The Rashbam can knock out Eidus b'shtar, but the Eidim b'shtar cannot become Eidim. The Rashbam knocks out the Rand Pshat and Al-Sugyo. That the 2 judges give a testimony to the third judge, and the third judge is a Bezdin. How is a Bezdin? He's only single dying. And he's not a mumche, and he didn't bring 2 people from the street. that the two witnesses, the two judges that said the testimony, the third judge, they're doing the same camp as Bebas Achas, they also become judging on themselves for the sake of the third judge. So then the Rashbam says it's no good. You cannot have two entities in one shop. It's out. I understand. That's okay. But if you don't learn like the Ra, you don't like the Ra, and you learn like the other Rishonim. Let's see the other Rishonim. Open your papers, you guys. Before questions, I want to finish my wrap up my point. You can ask questions. Look in what page? What page? What page? Page base in the Rambam. It's and that base is a Rambam. You guys have papers?
Yeah.
Rabbi Bell, you have papers? No good. Who Shlomo giving the papers?
I make chocolate.
So where's the copies?
Put it there.
Put it where? Here. Here's one. Hope so. No, it's not. I brought from Israelis. Don't have hands? This is what it is. Okay, I'm reading the Ramban inside. I'm reading the Ramban inside of base. All the Makshe Rabashi. Rabashi asks, this is what it means. Here, you need a God. Here they made a God by the third guy. Two witnesses told the third judge. Two judges told the third judge. They testified in front of the third judge. They already heard Eidos Bar Beisi. If they never testified in front of the third guy, they heard the testimony to the third judge. The two judges said a testimony verbally to the third judge, and they hear the testimony, and they also become judges.
They hear the testimony they say to the third judge. They hear.
Yes, because they talk to themselves. Bani Tomer, he says, I'm wondering. What is the testimony? So give me, you need three. Then you need basic. Where's the three? So they heard the testimony for him, for themselves, but where's the receiving of three? So we have three answers. One of the answers that Ramban, the third judge is a mumche. You know what mumche means? Professional. The roy lodu b'shadin emonois. One pshat. He's a professional and he can judge and monetary judge. He doesn't need a basis. A mumche. By himself, single, or or he brought two judges from the street at the time of the receiving the testimony. Those guys went away.
That doesn't mean professional.
What?
That doesn't mean professional.
Again, two answers.
He's asking what professional means.
Professional means
Expert.
that he is an expert in the laws of money. Torah laws of money. Expert. So now, he answers two answers. Where's the base and where's the three that received the testimony? When two out of the three judges know the testimony, they recognize the signatures. So they're giving a testimony to the third guy. The third guy is only single, it's not a basic. So he answers two answers. Or the third guy is a mumche, is a professional. He's a bucky. Or the third guy brought two judges on the street to receive the testimony, and then they're all gone. So then the two judges that recognize the signatures gave a testimony to the third guy with another two people in the street. Or he's a professional, it's considered basic. And after they said the testimony, they heard what they said, they become judges. So winners become judges. But here in this case, according to the Ramban, the two answers with the Ramban doesn't make effect with her. Which was the Rashban's problem. The Rashban problem is, Torah says the two witnesses have to stand in front of court, which means you have to have two entities. That's what he said. So here, in this case, we have two entities. Because the two judges that became witnesses, because they recognized the signatures, they gave a testimony in front of court. One mumche or two from the street together with him. So that when they said to him, afterwards, they want to use that, what they said to him, they want to become judges. So you have two separate entities. You have it and two separate entities at two different times. Although the testimony that they gave over to the third guy, that verbal words that came out of their mouth, now they're going to judge that for themselves and become a judge of what they verbally said, even though they don't need verbally, because they know without verbally. But here somehow they want to use the verbal testimony that they gave Agodas Eidu to the third judge, and now they will become with the third judge that he had other judges or is a mumche. They become three judges on themselves to make to verify the shtar. Once again, so then the A becomes a dime, but two different time periods. So two different time period, which is a problem, unless we say something else. We might see the Rashbam differently. What do you want to ask from?
I understand what Rashid just said to be the fear of Rashi, but what God Rashi was trying to prove.
Again, repeat.
I thought that was the fear. But the one trying to prove is that if all three judges know, then you don't have to have a Haggadah.
Right.
And that's what the Rashi was talking
And the
about.
Gemara and the Gemara is like, no, here they at least made an Agodah.
The Rashi was talking about a case where there's all three of them.
Yeah, but the Havin Maskon is, can they judge themselves upon the idea? The third judge needs the testimony, verbal testimony. The third judge needs a verbal testimony. But the two judges I know, they need a verbal testimony being said and rely on it for themselves. No. That's the two Havin Maskon. The Havin is you don't need, it's not the idea. I said, no, they need at least, because they thought at least was a Mekayim Agoda, came Agoda Seidus out of their mouth to the third judge, and they rely on that and not on the idea. Shayo Rika Agoda Koldu, the some Agoda. That's the Agoda, but it doesn't matter. The Rashbam Pitsu, the reason of the Rashbam, the reasoning of the Rashbam that he said, nice Adayim, why? The time of mind. Because we need two different entities. I have here. When the way he did later on, they became Dayanim.
Later on, it didn't say it twice.
No, it's not like that. The third answer was that I don't need the third dime to become mumche, or I don't need the third dime to add two judges on the street. That I don't need. What I do need is that the two judges that give a testimony to the third judge, they are doing two things in one shot. They're acting as witnesses to the third judge, and they're helping the third judge to have a base in three judges because they're also judges. So here's a problem to Rashbam. How can you have at the same time the same thing? That's a naka. Torah says, there's two entities. Two people under there. Here's the same entity. Doesn't work. But if it's two stages, they give a testimony to that guy, and they will judge upon the knowledge. It's two different things. So there were Amdu Shnei Anoshim Ifnei Elokim for the third judge who was standing because he's a Dayan Mumche or two people on the streets. They do that. They were entity of Eidim alone, and now they want to do a separate entity. They want to become judges, and they're upon the ideas, two different things. What's the problem? Problem you can say is the one entity in one shot is out, or unless you redefine what the Rashbam says. The Rashbam doesn't mean they need to have two different entities. The Rashbam says it's a psul. It's not my word. I think this is Kovetz Shurim or the Naftali Tro. They define the Rashbam differently. It's not that the Torah says you have two different entities. You can have two different entities, two different times. Here, the Rashbam is saying it's a psul. When you are an A, you have a psul. You cannot become a judge. And maybe also opposite. When you are a judge, you cannot become an aid on it. I don't know if there's but definitely if you're an aid, there's a psul, you cannot become a judge. It's a psul.
Okay, so
when the Torah says Anoshim and Hashem, it's not saying two different entities. It says when you are Anoshim, you cannot become an aid. It's a psul. You an aid is a psul to become a diamond. That's so it doesn't matter if two different separate times or the same time. You have a psul. If you an aid, you have a psul to act on this matter and to be a judge. It's a psul. It's not two entities. We learned that from the Torah. You can have two entities now. It's a psul. It's also. It's a Mimela, yes. Mimela. We learned that. Yes, it's a Mimela. I want to read the Ksois in page hey. Guys, page hey.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead. Ask.
How do you know what's his raya that knowledge is equal to hearing testimony? You hear testimony, you're hearing words, and then you understand you heard. Knowledge is something that you're not hearing. Right. How do you know that knowledge is included in the gather of what needs?
We don't know. The Gemara said that way. It's a habit must come. That way there was a knowledge is enough. Because there's no, you need it verbally at least. That's a Shana must come. That's the Gemara. That's the Gemara. Yes, Mendel. When the Torah says there have to be two entities, when one entity is no good, how do we know that a witness cannot become a judge? Because the Torah puts the judges and the witnesses are two entities. But when they become one entity, the Torah doesn't want that. We learn from the fact that the Torah count them as two entities must be bedafka, and the Torah doesn't allow it to be one entity. That's a simple way of learning Torah that doesn't fit only against the Ramban. I mean, only against the Ramban. But according to the two pshatim of the Ramban, that the dying Yochid is just mumche, or he has two other people from the shuk, from the market, to become judges with him. So then they gave a testimony. Later on, the judge has a separate time upon what they said or upon their knowledge. So what's the problem there? They acted as agent on one stage, and they acted as one aid in the second stage. Dayoni, what's the problem? We have two Anoshim and you have Dayoni later on. But unless you're going to say, no, the Torah is a makpi, that you can, once you are a witness, you can never become a dime. That's called absurd. That's you have to answer.
Doesn't that make sense doesn't it strong for the fact that you can't have a witness and then he's going to be a judge? You're worried. Isn't that
No, that's a second shot. And we worried for bias and all that.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss it in a second. That's a second thing. First, we're working on the Rashbam. So the Rashbam, we asked, the choilo depends on the pshat and the rishonim in the sugma. And then we answered no, but the whole pshatim is out. Because the pshat in this is not that there have to be two different entities. The pshat is a psul. I want to relate to the Ksois Kash. Look at the Ksois. Ksois is a page hey. Page hey. Page hey. Ksois, Simen Zayin, Sivkot and Daf. The Ksois brings down two pirushim. Ksois, Dalet, Simen Zayin, Sivkot and Daf. It's in page hey and Slavot Kashit. Rabbi Yitzchak Blum. You have papers? Now you can give them a check. Yes, Yoshua.
If I can just go to the street and get two Jewish people.
No, you need two judges. Your friends. Yes, that's Chavreim, friends. Friends means just living. Okay. I read now the Ksois Sivkot and Simen Zayin Sivkot and Da. Ein Asadan. He says, Nevu v'nishu b'zeh shnei tanyim b'toisos. Aleph. He says, toisos for two reasons. Aleph, which depends on us. We want to relate to. The Ba'inon v'odu shnei anoshim v'yesh al yoy stay down. The Torah says two people need to stand. So two people are not judges. So that's why A cannot become a dime.
Yeah, but you can say Ksav Yad to cancel that out.
No, so Ksav Yad is the same thing. Ksav Yad is a Lucy, come. Telling you. For Shleimu. This is a place that you had a holy thing for him. There's a famous story of the Bnei Shagasaya, right? Shagasaya, the bookshelf filling him, right? We got the whole story. But you remember the stories, man? Remember what was the story?
One of the just the bookshelf fell on him.
It's a whole story that the bookshelf he wanted to get a Gemara, the bookshelf fell on him. Whatever it is, but Shagasaya, the bookshelf, the books fell on him.
He has to write it wells. The Chinese side not looking more at write everything in the wells of the.
So figure it. Okay. So it's in the middle of the first column. Says the first reason I have a problem with.
Why God can bring these two reasons?
9, for those reasons brought in the destroying.
I tell you what, I will trace this in the first verse.
Yes.
Not after these two reasons.
Where are the 2 reasons?
One reason is missing in basic.
That's Pshat. Where does he say?
The other reason is a chashash.
Why is it missing in base?
One thing is a tsuma. Is when you work 18 missing the tsuma basic necessary.
Where does it say? Yeah. Where?
It said that.
Where?
It says here, if you show needing like the basic, it means that you have to show it. What is the Chisson? The Chisson is not short based in that, it's not needed basic. And the other thing is what they mean.
What are you talking about?
Why is it so short media? Is it Dayoni? Why Dayoni?
That's 2 different things. So what was it?
No,
it's a different Indian.
What is the scholar?
Oh, and Shalot Yeshua Dolim Eria. That's not.
That is the scholar of Ein Hasadai.
No.
Because they see and share. What is Dayoni? They always hear. Then what is the scholar of Dayoni? They only hear, they don't see.
Can the Dayan judge not in front of witnesses, rather what he saw?
What they see, when they hear is good enough. The Chiddush is that Shmiya, that the Shmiya Dolim Eria means the Dayan always sees, that's good enough. What's the Chiddush here? So what is the Chiddush in basic? Another case it says that he saw one of Chashash.
That's Chiyet, it's nothing to do with Ein Hasadai. So 2 different things.
This is the same song.
No. You want to make up your svor out of that. That's not what Tosis said. Good, you can make your svor. It's not what Tosis said. You jump, it's a jump. Maybe good jump and not a good jump. Let's go back to this. So he says, he wants to ask on the first reason. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines on the bottom of the first column of the Torah. Okay. If you already said the testimony in front of another court, he already fulfilled the mitzvah of standing 2 Jews in front of court. The 2 witnesses. Let's say 2 witnesses went to court. They gave a testimony to the court, and the court is in the middle of judging it back and forth. And they afterwards go with another 3rd guy or another 2 guys and becoming judges on what they said to this first court. So they already fulfilled the testimony. They fulfilled the testimony 3-1 court. And then now, as a separate stage, they're becoming judges on what they said. Says, what's the problem? According to the Rashbam, what's the problem? Ubashasu poiski mashma, the Eida made and the Yochel Yodaya. And the Pashasas mashma, the aid that gave a testimony cannot become a judge. And not that which means even if you're separate, two entities is no good. According to the Rashbam is mashma, you have to be 2 entities. But from the Shasas mashma, that even you are 2 entities, you cannot, an aid, a witness cannot become a judge. What's the case? 2 witnesses gave a testimony in front of court, and the court didn't make a psak yet. And afterwards, those 2 witnesses become a judge in a different Beis Din, and they're part of a different Beis Din to judge what they said in front of the first Beis Din.
What's the case in the second Beis Din? Does it say the case?
Again, they gave a testimony in front of court, and the court didn't make a psak yet. And then the 2 witnesses that said the testimony in front of court went with a 3rd judge or 2 other judges and made the judgment upon what those 2 witnesses said in the other court. So you have the same witnesses becoming judges, but at 2 separate entities, which the Eidos was in front of other judges, and the judgment is upon themselves. So according to the Rashbam, you have 2 different entities. I have 2 entities, but it's more as much. It's not a problem. 2 entities. The problem if you are a witness, you can't become a judge.
It's not 2 entities. One thing. Most of about it is not the same thing. Almost not a kebab. It's not, the Eidos never finished. I don't see the kasha. Ramo is not a gemara in the
One second,
base.
who told you that?
This is Father Shaw.
Eidus, when I give a testimony, can I retract?
It has to be, but no.
Can Eidus retract?
It's a second days in, no, don't remember, it's not the base.
It's not the Eidus. The Eidus is finished or not?
No. I'll tell you why.
Why not?
No, it's not, it's two chalot.
That's Halak that you gave Eidus is finished or not?
That's Chedek, yes.
Yes, that's all.
But
That's all. No, that's all. We're not talking about now punishment of and it's not punishment. We're not talking about punishment. We're talking about now giving Eidus. Came and Shigi, when is Igi? When you finish say the testimony in court, that's all. There's another thing how basic processes it, and when is the final judgment on it? It's different thing. Different thing. Talk about now. A nice and nine. When he said the testimony in court. He says here you said the testimony in a different court. Now you want to judge on what you said in a different court. So you have two different entities. But the Gemara's mashma is no good because the psum that an A cannot become a dayan. Yes, Reb Melech. Yes.
The Gemara says that they testified before the third, and then they signed.
The Gemara says a what?
And then they signed. Doesn't shock that they put both Asian and judges?
Not necessarily, because could be that the third guy that accepted the testimony he had another two judges with him, one shot, or he was a dying Yochid Mumche, and that's why he was a separate entity as a Beis Din. So when they gave a testimony, it was in front of court, and then they want to judge upon their what? Upon the knowledge they know, with the third judge that he heard testimony and they have knowledge, or upon what they verbally spoke to the third guy, not to themselves.
Those first two.
Yes.
Skip over, they're acting like they did.
Yes.
And when they sign, they're acting like the judges.
Right, actually. But you have two different entities. But if the Pasuk says that you have to have witnesses and judges, you have that. According to most Rishonim or the two Pshat and the Ramban, you have that. Only according to the Ran, you don't have. Because according to two other Pshatim is when I said a testimony to the third guy, so it's for him. And this moment when I give the testimony to the third judge, I'm not acting in the same moment also as a judge. So now I'm witnesses in front of court. And I'm not part of the court that I give a testimony. Then later on, when the testimony is already on the table in court, I want to judge upon it because I have the knowledge. Or what I heard being said to the third judge. So it's not the same. If the Rashbam is two entities, I have two entities. Or like the choices is. My question was, the whole kasha, the whole pshat of Tosfos, of the Rashbam, depends on the Rishonim. According to the Ramban, the two pshatim. I don't have the problem of the Rashbam. According to the Ran, they're acting in the same moment where the two judges are saying a testimony to the third judge. And the same moment they have a cap of witnesses, they attach themselves as judges to the third judge that he has a basic, not because it's a mumcho, he brought two guys on the streets. No street and not mumche. Where's based in those two judges that becoming test witnesses, they also are judges to receive what they said, reference to the third judge. So that's acting the same thing. The Torah says you cannot be, you have to be two entities, you can't have the same cap, the same hat, two hats on the same hat, doesn't work. But according to other Rishonim, which is the Ramban that says he's a diamond, according to the two judges on the street, another problem. And the choice even stronger is asking. It says, what happens if I said a testimony, the two judges said a testimony to a third judge or to three judges? And now they want to judge upon what is being said because the first court didn't yet made a decision on it. And they want now to judge upon what they said in different courts. Same thing. It's basically separating the two courts, but according to the Ramban, it's like two courts because the one judge is a mumche. We brought two others, the same thing. So I'm saying the kasha of the choice is not only a kasha against the Rashbam in the two different Beis Dins. This is the case of the Gemara, according to the Ramban, is two different Beis Dins. Right? It's only according to the Ran that they're using the same cap. Only then the Rashbam has this reason. Unless we're going to say that the Rashbam even meant even according to the Ramban. The Rashbam actually meant that doesn't mean the Torah says you have to do different entities, rather than the psul. If you witnesses, you have to be in front of Hashem. You cannot also become in front of Hashem, even later on. It's a psul. It's not you have to have two entities. is once you one entity, you have a black stamp, you can never move on. On this case, they become judges.
Or let's say that why we have to jump in two basins. Let's say that in one basin there were more than 3 dayons. Let's say that
Same thing, that's what it means.
Seven.
That's what it means. That's what it means. When the Ramban says bring 2 others from the streets, we can have basin that only 2 people know, and another 4 and 5 judges that are there, big court don't. See? Question number 1. Question number 2. V'chei, for you, Rabbi Yoshua, he's asking the second question from a shtar. V'chei, eidachosu b'shtar, a witness that signs on a document. The rule is, we learned the last month, right? For a whole month we learned that when you sign on a shtar, when there's a shtar, whatever the shtar means, it becomes investigative testimony, right? In court. So now, when you sign on a shtar, it's considered testimony or not? It's not only testimony, it's investigative testimony, right? So your signatures is being received as a testimony in court.
Right.
And I don't investigator receive testimony. Woo. So now you sign on the shtar and you want to judge your own shtar. Yoshua, you want to judge your own shtar. You judge your own shtar. The law is, you're not allowed to become a judge. But according to the Rashbam, that you have to have 2 entities. I'm 2 entities. When I signed, I was a witness. And only later on, I'm making a new cap. I'm adding a cap of judges, not the same cap. I'm adding later on two different events. Should be good. Must be no. If you're a witness, you can never act in this case as a judge. It's a psul. Okay, but according to Rashbam, it's not mashma. It's the only mashma that you can have 2. It has to be 2 separate entities. But in the case of a shtar, okay, 2 different bases. You know, we added according to the Ramban's cases. There's 2 different stories, so 2 different stages. So why? Yet there, the Gemara says, "Ein and I said, that's what the Rashbam's shot is hard." This is what the Ksois asks on the Rashbam. Yes. What? You have to say. If you don't say a psul, the simple way is not a psul. Simple way to read the Rashbam is the Torah wants the witnesses to be in front of court and not the witnesses other. Right? If that's the pshat, we have a kasha from a shtar, we have a kasha from 2 different basins, or we kasha from the 2 terutzim of the Rambam. That we added it. We added to the Ketzois those 2. So the way they answer this page of the Rashbam, it's not my answer. It's the Kovetz Shuri or Naftali Tov, a very famous answer. I don't have the time to print it out, but you should look it inside. And they learn, no, Pshat the Rashbam is that the Torah didn't mean to say that 2 witnesses are front of Bezi means have to do entities. No, is if you are Shnei Anoshim, you have a psul because you cannot be in front of Hashem. You cannot act as Hashem. You have to be lifnei Hashem. If you are 2 people, has to be lifnei Hashem, but you cannot be Hashem yourself. It's a psul. So therefore, we don't care 2 different time or 1 time. Doesn't matter. If you're an 8, you have a psul. You can never act on this matter. This is the way they answer. I mean, that's the kasha of the Ksois. That doesn't fit. And the Gemara says it's a psul. That's what they answer, right? That's what it says in the Torah. That's what Rashbam meant. So the kasha is the answer. That's shot in the Xeras HaKosu of yes, what do you mean?
They're talking the difference between Bakoach and Bakoach. The memra itself is together. Bakoach. Some of them are learning Bakoach, and that's why they're the problem. The other people, Bakoach, you're the same.
That's what they actually mean. What is psul before? Second answer. So Tosis brings it as a yes meforshim, and Tosis brings it as a yes meforshim. And guys, the help of us. Tosis brings it as a yes meforshim, and Tosis asks. Tosis asks a question on themselves. They give an answer. So Tosis brings a second answer, and he has a question on it. Okay. So the Ksois brings an answer which is already brought down in the modern kind of showing clearly give that answer. It's not, although the Ksois brings out his own answer, but he didn't see in front of him that though this answer is already said by the Rishon. Okay, but This is not what we want to get today only. We want to bring down the Beis Halevi, and has a very strong kasha, which is very, very essential, I think, for the sugya, what exactly the rabbi said. So this is, so let's start doing it. The Yesh Mefoshim, I'm reading it also. The Yesh Mefoshim, third line in Tosfot. Third line from the beginning of the big lines in Tosfot. The Yesh Mefoshim, Mishum the Baino, because we need Bitzchor. The Yesh Mefoshim, Mishum the Baino, you have to get a Gemara. Guys have Gemaras. I think there's a page on the right page. It says it's in page 20. Not so sure that's right. I think it's that.
What English word?
English Gemara is the same, doesn't matter. I mean, you need choices.
Third line.
Oh.
Third line, in the, yes, long lines. You have it at which page it starts? Oh, it starts with which? The Pshlemi, we have Gemara somewhere here. Oh, here. I have here two Gemaras. Not only one, two. Anyone else needs a Gemara? See the places inside? Good. Veyesh Mefoshim, now those who learn, explain. Mishum de Ba'inan Eidu Shatei Chol Azim. You need, the rule is, a testimony needs to have the ability to be Azoma on it. It's not. So I want to a little bit elaborate on that before we continue on. So what's the problem? Problem is, if I'm a judge on what I give a testimony, I will never receive a criticism on what I give a testimony.
Why?
Because I'm not going to receive a criticism of myself. The Mishnah says in Masechet Negaim that a Kohen that sees Negoim, he can only see Negaim of other people. But he cannot see his own Negaim. Man doesn't see his own fallacies. It's a lashon mushal from the Mishnah.
That's physical stuff.
They're talking about physical.
Okay, but here it is.
Like bribery is a bias. You're not going to accept criticism on yourself. Calling a relative to give a testimony, no.
That means.
That's a kosu, but also svod, both.
But
But here it's the svod. When you are, he's not saying it's a psul and edus that aid kovas possible. It's not edus. The aid wants to come a dying. So if the aid wants to come a dying, it's not a psul of kuvo. It's a psul that you're not going to accept criticism. So then the testimony is is a testimony that cannot be musa because he's going to be judged on his edus who will never receive azom on himself. No, other witnesses will say he said the false testimony, but he won't receive the witnesses. This is about himself, and he's the judge. So he's not going to receive the criticism himself.
well, he could be a big person. He could be a big person. Yes, except.
He can be a big person, but when it comes to money, when it comes to be biased, the Torah tells us that shochan makes even wise rabbis blind. You heard about the verse?
Yes.
Shochan yaver enei becomes blind, makes you blind. Even chachomim, wise people. That's the reality. You be big, very big. You have a big shochan. Maybe a big person needs a big issue. That's how it works. When you have shochan, it's it doesn't.
Here we have another problem that the same aid will say an aid think before that he give testimony because he can think, oh, they're gonna catch me. But in this case, he will say, oh, I'm gonna catch myself and I'm gonna forgive me. So even the testimony, it's a cool.
Oh, very good. We learned beginning of a second makro, it's two answers and choices. And the two Rebbe explains what the two Rebbe. Somebody says, Adim says, you're begun to become. Question is, they get lashes. They says they give a testimony to somebody who's Begush V'Chalutza. You don't make them because if you make a Mushlochi, you also hurt his children. And the Torah says Azom is only on the person himself, doesn't continue. Right? That's why there's no Eidus and Mamzeus and Mush V'Chalutza, because there's no Eidus. What do you get? You get lashes. Torah says, okay, but if you don't become yourself and your children Mamzerim or Begush V'Chalutza, so then it's Eidush Techol Azim. So Torah says there's two answers. Or Malchus fulfills it, or it's Gzeras HaKosu. And not always you need to have Eidush Techol Azim. It's a din. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So the two Rebbe explains that Shai is a Svoras HaDavar. The first answer holds that the power of Eidus, of testimony is you must say the truth, otherwise you get hurt. You could get hurt. The fear that you could be Muzam gives us the validity that he's saying the truth, because you can be Muzam. But Eidus that cannot be Muzam, so then the Eidus its power loses its power. So that's why I have to say that Malchus still is the fear. Therefore, there's true validity to the testament. But second answer is no. It's Eidus is absolute truth. Nothing to do because you have fear that you might be knocked out. So if you learn that there's a din Eidush Techol Azim makes the Eidus true, so here it takes as a kasha how here Eid can become a dayan if the Eid is the same dayan on what he said. Eidush Techol Azim, and therefore it's a psulim Eidus that I don't know if he's saying the truth or no. It's a psulim Gzeras HaKosu. So those two pshat or two teitzes can be in the kasha of teitzes. The pshat is Mephoshim. They say if A cannot become a dayan midoraisa, why? Because it will be Eidush Techol Azim. And what is it? So then the Eidush is weak because there's no fear, or it's possible it's a psul because there's a Gzeras HaKosu that Techol Azim. The Eidush needs to be Yochel Azim. Either way, this Roshim is in.
So how does creating a second court with the same witnesses now acting as judges solve that problem?
We not asking that. That was a kash according to the first pshat. That's not our problem according to this. According to this, even separate court, that's what this pshat gains. It says even if you go to separate court or the shtar, I am a sign on a shtar, and a winner cannot become a judge even on a separate entity because I'm not going to accept judgment. I'm not going to accept azoma on myself. So therefore, all those kashas only according to the Rashbam. But according to this pshat is great. We have a different kasha. What Teish is asking now. He says, again, there's Mephoshim reading inside. There's Mephoshim, Mishum de Ba'in and Eidush Techol Azim. V'im ha'edim na'asu dayon. If the Eidim becomes judges, Eidush she'ein ata yochol azim ohi. It's an Eidush that you cannot maze him. Shulei kalbu azom al atzim. They're not going to receive azom on themselves. Umiu, the feet times there according to this reason, if the witnesses are close relatives to the judges, they cannot give a testimony. They won't receive azom on themselves. And rather since בני הזום מונינו בבייזין אחר, איזה יכול להזים או כרגע בוחנמי, היא עדיין I said, stop, what does he say? He's saying you have a cast of this pshat. If the pshat is why an A cannot become a dayan, because he's not going to receive a zom on himself, so then so also any relatives, any witnesses cannot be relatives of the judges. And Lichoy Tesis holds that the halacha is the witnesses can be relatives of the judges.
That's right.
So although the Yerushalmi, is someone showing the horns? No. Because of this kasha, say yes. The reason is that en nice dying because it comes to Shechol Azimo. And Enochanami also, if the Eidim are calling the Beis, they Shechol Azimo, he cannot accept. But he has a kasha. If that's the reason, so why Eidim can be relatives to the judges, we're not possible. He doesn't know like the Yerushalmi, he says kosher. He says no. Now we have an answer because they can be Muslim on another basis. Egim are relatives to the judges that judge them, but they can receive azama. If two witnesses say they lie, they go to another court, and the other court will judge those witnesses say they lie in that court. And one court can judge in another court. So you can accept the azama on another basis, and that's what's called eshachon azima. But if the same edim are the judges, so what's the problem? They not accept azama themselves. You can go to another court. There's a azama will go to another court and complain. That's the kasha of Tosfos. I mean, that's why Tosfos says, no, not kasha. Tosfos answers the kasha. The real reason is that why ain't nice because in because they won't accept azama themselves. So why people can be relatives, witnesses can be relative to the judges? The answer is because they can accept azama somewhere else. So say here, so therefore you also say here. So he made us not a good reason. That's how they said knocks out it. Says it cannot be like this with Moshe. That any nice dayan because of the aid becomes a dayan on himself. He's not going to accept azama on himself. He says that's not true. He can accept azama somewhere else on another basis. On this basis, like if witnesses are relative to the judges, it can be azama on them on another basis. That's why Tosfos knocks out this answer.
But if they didn't cry him,
Yeah.
How Dayan shall follow the whole Ladun? What's the difference between Edim?
Edim cannot be relatives within themselves, or they cannot be relatives to the litigants, to the Toin Venita. But the judges, nothing to do, because the judges have no interest, and the witness has no interest. So in between the no interest, they have relatives. Doesn't mean anything.
We see a case that
Only if they're bad apple, you want to knock them out and give them punishment, they won't receive on their relatives a judgment against them. But here, the subject's not the judges, it's not the witnesses. It's the subject is about the litigants and what the witnesses saying are.
Oh.
So then the judges are not part of that, and the witness is not part of it.
Oh, no, but according to Azom.
Oh, but potentially, if those two witnesses become liars, and there's witnesses that say azom on them, so then now the arrows is on them, not on the subject, not on the litigants, is on the Eidim is on the subject. So then they basically, since they're relative, they would accept. So Zaydish Techol Azima. It's just through another basis, also here another basis. The problem is what Rabbi Yosef says. Well, you asked, and I like that very much. It started, no. I said, this is a common sense. If you ask me, what is a common sense? If I ask you, tell me on your own mind, it makes sense that the witnesses become judges? No. Doesn't smell good. How can you judge what you give a testimony? It's okay, Avakashi can do it through another basin, that's all. Like, oh, okay. But the common sense, I would say, the simple story is this Mefoshe.
You can be notarion.
And not only that, the Ksois holds that that's the Kalalo. And he answers his kasha. He says the answer on his own self, his own name. Really, his answers really said by the Rishon, the Mordechai, and other Rishonim bring this answer themselves. I saw, not even the Mordechai, I saw here, one of the Rishonim that says this answer. Deran, Hidush Aran, here in Rosh Hashanah says this answer. It's in the page Gimel. But we're going to read the answer next time. But really, this answer already said by the Rishonim themselves. So what's the Ktoi's answer? Lo chenire kefiatam mishum azom. Comes the Ktois and he says, I'm reading in page Hey, and the Ktois Simen Zayin, see if cotton down the second column on the top. Lo chenire kefiatam mishum azom.
But there was.
He concludes like Rabbi Yosef, he said, that's a simple.
There was.
That the witness cannot become a judge because he wouldn't accept criticism of himself.
There was.
That's no good.
There was. I saw right now.
Yes.
There was a judgment in the States about one person that smoked weed, whatever it is, and they give it. It was in this guy was in reprobation. No, he cannot drive, whatever, and he has a judgment in the webcam with the judge, and he was driving, and he has and the judge saw him smoking weed in the judgment. He didn't know that he was recording whatever. He was waiting the judgment. This guy, but he smoked, and the judge saw him. And with the lawyers and everything, says, okay, now I saw you. So he was witness, and he accepted. What's the problem with that? What the story is, what's not bad? It's perfect. The judge has the power, and he's being the egg. There's no proof greater than that. You don't need another egg to tell you that.
Why do you believe him? Maybe you have to hear about.
Yes, your question. I will express my understanding in your question. It says, if I have knowledge, can I judge upon my knowledge? Yes, if the judges see Kiddush HaChodesh, can they see, the judges see somebody killed? Can they judge on what they saw? Yes. They judge upon the knowledge. Yes. What? Why not? No, if they, because there they saw at night. Since what they saw at night, they cannot realize, they cannot say the testimony. So the knowledge needs to be said as if they be what you say, as if what you said. Then it doesn't work at night. You have to say in the morning. So then you cannot say in the morning because if you come in 8, you coming out in a judge. But why on your, he's asking, why on your knowledge you could rely and make a judgment? And when you need to say verbally testimony, you act as an aid verbally, you cannot become a judge. There's a difference. If it's xerasa kosu, if you said verbally aid, you're out. It's a psul, you understand? But if it is because you don't accept azom on yourself, that's the reason they shechol azimo. So why you can rely on your knowledge? So you have to say the dinim of Eidush Techol Azim is only in din in Agoda Saints. But when I bypass Agoda Saints, like Shtar, I bypass Agoda Saints.
I don't need Agoda Saints.
I don't need Agoda because I have the knowledge. So I don't have those dinim. So if I don't have to have Eidush Techol Azim, it's kind of that's a cost of small. Yes, he is small. What's the difference?
Oh, maybe he already has the.
The difference is a different getter.
Yeah.
You have the knowledge, it's not Agoda Saints. Have Agoda Saints, then we have to have. Said this so. The asking is the same svor should exist when I have knowledge. And I know something and I judge upon what I know, so I won't accept a criticism on what I judge upon what I know. The answer is you work on what you know, so what you know is the truth. But if it's not what you know is what you said, and you want to judge upon what you said because you need to say somehow, sharp night, whatever it is, you cannot rely on what you know, as what you said is on the saying. Saying has to be his ability to be criticized. It's not Amos. Or it's Xeras HaKosu. We said two pshatim to Sumakis. If it's Xeras HaKosu, then you have a cash. Because Xeras HaKosu only when you have Dina Eidus, Dina Godas Eidus, and not when you rely on your Yediyah, which is not Dina Godas Eidus. But Re'iyah and Yediyah is nothing to do with the laws of Agodas Eidus. So the dinim of Eidush Techol Azim was Xeras HaKosu when Agodas Eidus, not in Yediyah or Re'iyah. But if it's a svara that what makes Eidus true because you're afraid to be challenged, so would you judge upon your Yediyah, what to rely on? You rely on your Yediyah. What makes your Yediyah to be trustworthy because it can be challenged. It might be challenged. So how we can rely on that Yediyah. So if it's a svor, you have a cash. If it's Xeras HaKosu, with no cash. If it's a svor, you have a good question. Why here now? Why here?
So but there is we can answer that in that case in the States, the judge already has the Torah of judge. And now we see he can go down and less and be an egg. But here it's an egg. He has not the Torah of judge. You want to convert him in a judge from egg.
That's why I started. I said we only know that aid not a dime, but I don't know if a dime become an aid. Maybe a dime can become an aid, but aid cannot be a dime. Yes, what do you want to ask me?
You said that a dime can go for testimony.
Can what?
You said just before. You said a dime can go from what he saw.
Can means yes. Yeah. Someone said the English so well. Yes.
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 Can, yes.
Yes.
Then we also need two witnesses to testify.
Right.
So.
So here we bypass it. If the judge knows, because he saw himself, he knows, there's no dean of Agoda things. The more challenges, maybe they need, maybe not. And you fulfill it by saying it's not but there's a Hana Maskone here. But if you needed the laws of testimony is Shakrazim. If you don't need. The Gemara Maskone is that you need and you fulfill it by saying to a third judge. The Shmamin of the Gemara is no. The simple Shmamina, which is the final truth, that if you know you don't need a testimony. The laws of testimony to give verbally a testimony is not needed if you know.
Maybe it's not by, it sounds like it's not bypassing it to me, because
It sounds like what?
it's not bypassing, you need two witnesses.
I don't say English. No what?
It's not bypassing.
Bypass it.
Bypassing? You're not breaking.
No, because you need two witnesses to give it to the third judge.
Right.
Not bypassing.
That's the Gemara's dechia. There's a dechia. Knows what dechia means? The Gemara pushes off. Don't prove that you don't need a testimony. If you just know, maybe we fulfill it by because they said a testimony to the third judge. So it was fulfilled of a saying, even though not for themselves, but they did. But they said that's the Gemara's dechia. But the dechia is not the truth. The shmamin is the truth. That's what the Rishonim quote. So that's the Eksois himself quotes. Anyhow, so now let's go to the Eksois answer. Guys, be with me, bear with me. A few more minutes. Now, Musa Shmooze. Shmooze, you know, snooze. Musa snooze. It looks like it's not news. Snooze. I'm not a rapper. I'm a friend of a rapper. What? Imagine a rabbi a rapper. Yeshiva rapper. I know Yehudi Kadosh can be a rapper. But לא כנראה, כפי הטעם, משום הזמן. The reason, yes, Rabbi. Yeah, by the way, why it's hot? It's not working?
Are you kidding?
Freezing, I'm sweating.
Yeah, we're feeling.
It's burning back.
If you're freezing, you don't feel the Torah.
Your machine is working. Our machine is. The room is double the size, and we don't have double air conditioning. We have half. Here's 2 and here's 3. Should be 4 and 2. Is this double the size of the room? Depends which way you're looking. Okay, Leah, let's go back. Yes. Kasha, which is already showing is the reason why a nice dying because he's not going to accept Azoman himself. So the Kasha is, what's the problem? You go to another basin. Like Adim, which are relative to Dayoni, why I accept the Adim because you move them another basin. Also here, if the Aid becomes a Dayan, you can mazim him by going to another basin against him. The 2 Aidazom will go to another basin. What's about? So the answer is, he says no. You go to another basin, you'll never get the punishment. The Aid to become a judge, if you go to another basin, will never get punished. Normal Azom will get punished. One. Normal Azoma, if 2 witnesses said something that Reuven owes money to Levi. Reuven stole, Reuven mazik, okay? 2 witnesses, Reuven mazik Shimon. And then you find out the lie, so they have to pay that what they wanted the mazik, but they should pay. Okay? That's called Eidu Shecholazim. Even though the Eidim that said that Reuven stole from mazik from Shimon, they lie and they're apostle mafreya and who never Eidim. But it doesn't matter. But they had a judgment on them when they said a testimony. But here, the choice answer is no. Because here, if the aid becomes a judge, and what happens? He said that the Eidim are Azoma, are liars, so it comes out that the judges of those Eidim also are liars, because they're the same one. So there was never Gemar Din, or the Gemar Din Bepisul. So not only Eidim Bepisul, the Gemar Din Bepisul. So if they don't mean because they lie, because they're liars. So there's no Gemar Din. You never give when you give it when Eidim nice and Zoimim, Ain't nice actually Maradin and Tulus Gmardin. For Martin after and now only after Kashozon or Kasharos. Can that be also? It can't be for Marasnik Mardin. Here Rabbi Mardin because Mardin is a pursuit. But since the 80 become a Dionim, so the dying was possible to do Mafia on this subject. So I don't have a Mardin. So again, so he's saying there's a difference between witnesses which are relative to the judges or if the witnesses are the judges themselves. If the witnesses are relative to the judges, we don't care that the witnesses are posel mafreya, because the judges are separate people, and they made a gemardin on this false witnesses. They get a punishment. But if the witnesses are the judges themselves, so now if you pass the eidim and say the zomim and posel mafreya, comes out that there was no gemardin from the judges because the eidim were the judges. So there's no gemardin, so those witnesses can never receive punishment. What do you want?
No, I said, how can it, is it shy to say that the judge was didn't make a judgment?
Why not?
Because
if it's possible,
he made a judgment.
if the aid was an apostle and the aid was the judge, so the judge is also possible. What happened?
Judge or is an aid?
It's not but it's not an aid, it's not a judge because the aid was a judge. What happened if a person is a judge and he's a robber? Can a robber become a judge?
But he's already a judge.
No, a person becomes a judge, he's judged something and you find out that from before he's a robber.
Oh.
He's a stealer, he's a gunner, he goes with whores, who knows? Balave, he can't become a judge. Especially with no gap. So here the aid become a die and say, so he say, don't aid, what was the cash? Kasha was of Toises, if it was saying true that it aid and I said that because he's not going to accept Azoma himself. So why aiding can be according to the Dayonim? They wouldn't accept Azoma themselves. And among the Bezinach, or say, yes, Bezinach, and this is Bezinach is not enough. But by aiding that relative to Dayonim, if they become Eidim Zoimim another Bezin, so they still can punish them. But here, if the Eidim becomes Dayonim, even though you go to another Bezin, the Eidim, which were the Dayonim, will never get a punishment. Because in order to get a punishment, you need to have Hindik Maradim. And since here the Eidim are the same as Dayonim, the same people, they become Dayonim. So if the Eidim apostle Mafreya, Zoimim from Mafreya, so also the Dayonim Mafreya, so there's no judgment. Because the Dayonim were Psulim. So it's never Gmardin, so you can never give a punishment. So that's why Ein and I said dying because they you cannot basically give them an oynesh of Nigmaradim. That's the answer of the Mordechai the choice. Comes the Beis Halevi and he has a strong cast.
Why can't we say that like we say after for the Sunyas, Pasina Migura.
Yes, Palgina.
Palgina, sorry. And we accept one part and the other part not. So the Eidus we accept. And let's say Palgina Tafkidi. So Eidus, yes, right. No, we don't hear it.
That could be. I accept only Eidus, not the other. If I have another judges, like the Ramban and others. If not, it doesn't stop. Okay. Guys, come to Beis Halevi and he asks a much more fundamental question. Okay? Yedes Rachami, fundamental. What's fundamental? Much more basic question. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says, and we learned last week and 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, in the yeshiva. Right, Mendel, we learned. We learned in the yeshiva for a long time all the laws of Shtarot. And one of the most fundamental things we learned, does Dire Momonis need Rishav Hakira? Omar Rabbi Hanina. Omar Rabbi Avon, but Hanina. Tvar Toiro, words of Torah, Echod Dire Momonis, Echod Dire Nefoshes, what's the law, Rabbi? Rishav Hakira means you need to have an ability to investigate. Right? Val Toiro. And therefore, Shtar, Eidus B'Shtar is not Eidus Chakura, right? But you know why Shtar works? If it's Shtar Mekhi works, magic Midoraisa works. But how Shtar Momon works, it's Eidus. It's Eidus Nishtav Hakira. Midarabonon. Shaloitino Dezuloi. The rabbi said, I don't need a date. You don't need Nishtav Hakira. Then the Momon is not to lock doors. And the Rambam extends it to stories. There's all stories, all monetary documents why it works. Shaloitino Deles. Right? So although, so it's like Nechker Midarabon. Really, it's Eidus and we pick someone. This is no, it's Eidus Hakura, magic, because the rabbi said not to close the doors. The witness will go where they died, that's Hayam, that's there. But also says they don't need Drisha Chakira. So my whole sugi here falls off. Yes. Why ain't I said Dayan? A can I become a Dayan? Why? Because A is the Cholazimon. Talk about money. Money doesn't need time even. Doesn't need a tiempo, doesn't have a time. Because I don't need Drisha Chakira. I don't need time because I don't need Drisha Chakira. Because I don't want to lock doors. Oh, what time, what moment, what day. 1 second. If the Midor Rabbonon, I don't need Rishav Chakim. Who says by Shtar? Only by Shtar.
The Rambam said by Shtar.
Not the Rambam. Chanin. Omer Chanin. Dvar Torah. Echad Dine Momonois. Echad Dine Foshes. Dini. All Dine Nevoyon. Need Rishav Chakim. The Rabbon Shlo Yitino Ydeles. They say you don't need Rishav Chakim. The Rambam extends it to Shtar. But that's a Din and A. The A comes as, Yaakov owes money to Shimon. He needs to say the date. Again, A say Reuben lend money to Shimon. He didn't say a date. No. The Eidus says Eidus because by money you don't need dates. Because you don't reach a Chakira, so not to lock doors, you don't reach a Chakira. Din and the Mamonos doesn't need Mokim Zman. In order to create this Chakira, Mokim and Zman, I don't need by Din and Mamonos. Why not to lock doors? We made it, the Ram makes sense to stories. That's what we learned last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? Listen, what's going on here? I don't understand this whole sugi. According to the Yesmefoshi, that why an nice a Dion, why an A can I become a Dion? Why an A can I become a Dion? You know why? Because Zaydish Techolazim. I don't care about a song. I don't have even dates in stories. I don't have an Eidus of moments. I don't need to have Mokim Zman. Because I don't need Trisha V'Chakira. I don't need not to lock doors. So let it be be a Dayan. It didn't moment. Kira Shachoidesh. Okay, it's not moments. The more brings 1 second. So the chiluk should not be. Listen before the chiluk is not should be Doraisa the Rabbanon. Kira Shachoidesh is different. Should be Dina Momonos. Even Midoraisa. Even Dina Momonos Doraisa. But with the Rabbanon, I don't need. Time means I don't care about Rishon Chakira, so I don't need Eidush Techolazimo. And therefore, it can be a Dayan, not only on Kiyum stories, the Rabbanon, even Dina Momonos Doraisa. Not Kiyum stories. Eidush Doraisa Momon. Doesn't need, it can be a Dayan, because doesn't need Rishon Chakira, doesn't need Chakira, I don't have Eidush Techolazimo. Yes, that's the much more fundamental kasha. This is where it says kasha, the Beis HaLevi. It's printed here in Daf Zayin.
Maybe the Kavanah is that they cannot come to aiding to say it's not true. Because trade negative trade, there is a thing. So maybe the Kavanah Azomo is that you won't be able to bring another to aiding to say it's not true what you say. And we cannot apply the thing of trade negative trade.
I don't have again, repeat.
If 218 says Uel Ba Kesef,
yes,
and another 218 says Uloy Ba,
right.
We apply trade against trade.
Correct. Correct.
But here, maybe it doesn't come out.
But 1 second. But you could do Azoman money?
No, you're right. There's no Azom. Maybe the kavod of Azomo is to say that it won't be able to apply the thing of another 218 that come to this end Nasadayan. This guy. They cannot contradict them. We cannot apply the need of trade, negative trade.
No, that is not true. You don't say that. But maybe it wouldn't happen because it wouldn't accept. So we cannot have Azom on it. Maybe it won't be trade because it won't accept it. I don't know. But another basin will accept. We'll have Azom. Like we don't have punishment. That was the answer. But now we're asking a much more fundamental question. If Din and Momonos, all Din and Momonos, don't need Rishav Chakim. So therefore, what's the problem of a nice Hadai and all Dina Momonos? Not only Kim Stores the Rabbanon, even Dina Momonos Doraisa. Shalotila Stevas, no loy, because I don't so yes, it's not true. The Beis HaLevi explains it, it says not true, and this is his chiluk. When you have to understand his chiluk, what's he saying? What do you want to say?
Einas Hadai is the Chison based.
Yes.
Mashiach can't din of Dish Chakir is a din negative. Two different houses.
I would say not true. I just brought Toys and Makis, the two Reven, went to a Pshat. Eid Shechol Azim was a din in aid in his strength, in his truth. The Ish Hakir is the final say truth. Eid Shechol Azim is the final say truth because he can be challenged. It's both in the same line. Or both Xeras HaKos, or both the same. So what's the difference? Why? I don't care about because I don't. It's Shechol Azim. There's no Bokeres Man. So what I care, and I said Shechol Azim. I don't I don't need time. This whole thing falls on so much more. It's a very fundamental question. Something is wrong.
Dion is a din. You have aid and a dion. And din Ish Hakir is din Eidus.
No.
You have a different plan.
Yeah, but Toys is defined. Why Ein Sadai? Because the Eidus is a bad Eidus Shechol Azim. You can say your pshat is in basic, but it's not what Toys is saying. He's challenging this pshat of Toys. Toys is defined. There's Mephoshim said. The problem is what is the Eidus and Shechol Azim. So I don't need the doesn't have all those dinim. You don't need Chadish Hakir in the moments. So why only keeps Torah's the Rabbanon and gives Shachoy Doraisa? No, even dinim moments Doraisa works.
Apollo works. By this moment. No. It does medame each other. It does medame koloi to our case. It says medame by Eid Chalasum, but it koloi a person koloi to Atzmon.
No. Wait, jumping things. What are you saying?
Okay. This is the beginning. So Eid Chalasum. Then he made a new step. Well, they don't koloi to themselves.
Now, when did you make that step?
Doesn't make this step.
That what?
That why ain't Asadayim? Because Kolov it's an atzmo.
Where did you say that?
Because in Kolov, it's an atzmo.
What?
Shloi karu e atzmo atzmo.
Right?
What is the score of Kolov?
No, that's a
good.
No, not a problem. The Dayanim want to accept it.
Why?
Because they're
they fell to themselves.
Not because they don't want them to hurt themselves. Not because it's cool. Not enough Kolov. No, they wouldn't accept. So they may like have the Eidim, so you mean, and I wouldn't accept them.
I will show you that is the call because then he makes a night if he can't say. But he made him koivi.
No, he says koivi. They wouldn't mekabel. Also, they wouldn't mekabel. Same thing. They wouldn't mekabel.
Stop koivi.
They wouldn't mekabel. Lo yikablu azom alatzu. That's the reason.
They be themselves.
But not din kuva. They wouldn't accept that themselves criticism. Not a din kuva. Not din kuva. It's not a din. It's a reality.
Again.
No, yeah, we don't get themselves. We wouldn't accept it. Yes.
Rosh Hashanah said that.
Who?
He said that Rabbi Hanina said there is Rishbot here in Mammons.
Midorais.
Midorais, okay. Except in Shtaros, there's
not Shtaros. Dina Momines. Didn't Shaloitin on there, Momines they don't. All Momines. All Momines.
So there's no other.
The words
talking about Shtaros.
What?
I was talking about Shtaros.
Right.
But other Mammons, maybe you need. Maybe you need.
In the language.
It needs
Akira, but Shalatina is they don't need Rishon Hakira in moments.
But
in moments.
There is no
Shtar. The Rambam adapts an auto to Shtar. Shtar's moment. And he says, Adarab Shtar, which is not a Raya, Shtar Kinyan, for example. The Rambam says you don't have that reason. It works with the rice, not to come on. Guys. So the Beis Levi brings down the Urim and Tumim. And he says a chiluk. I want to explain the chiluk. It's a little bit hard to understand what he's saying. I want to explain the chiluk. I'm reading inside. It's in Daf Zayin. V'ayim ha'urim and Tumim shetiras betuv. דלא יתיקנו חכמים רק, דגם עד שלא יהיה באפשרי, בשום אופן להזימו יהיה גם גגוש. The rabbis only fixed that even if there's no ability to, no yeh be'efshori, won't be an ability in any way to make him asoma or still be kosher. Which means the rabbi said, I don't care that I'm destroying the ability, in no way the ability to make Azoma on it because you don't have time and place. The Azoma can never start. That's what the rabbi said, because not to lock doors, we don't care about tiny. Avol, but Dovo, the guy yazimu oisom lo yitnu. But if there is azom, basically we're not allowed to do azom, or they'll throw the ending. The kemoi be'eda kori, like a relative, a witness which is a relative to the die. The guy in yoyim ha'ed azman v'gam yazimu oisom. Even the angel will say the time, and he will be challenged. Lo yischai will never be paid for it. Why the leikabla azama? The basic will not receive azama. Zelo itiknu kla. They didn't fix that at all. The ekosh. Why? I have here a destruction of judgment. I have other witnesses in front of us. And nobody listens to them. They shout and nobody listens to them. Shumochi, therefore, Gamato Posul Koroi. Also now, Korov is a apostle. The Dvorov Burim Muchoch. What is this? I want to explain what it's very simple. He's saying that even though the rabbi said that Dine Momanos don't need Risha Bechakir, doesn't need Mokim Zman Mokoim. Dine Momanos don't need Zman Mokoim, and all Dine Momanos, they have extended to Shtar. That's, they said, listen, we want people to lend money to each other. And when they put stipulations of Drisha Hakira, Tam, Mokim Esman, people will not lend money. So, in order to make, they broke the bureaucracy. In order to make people loan quick, they broke the bureaucracy, even though later on can hurt, because if witnesses will say something cannot be challenged. But they broke the bureaucracy on an expense that maybe later on cannot be bosom. But to say that if I have two bare live witnesses, say, listen, those first two witnesses, which became judges or whatever, they're liars. They're with us that day. And basically we're not extended because they're relatives. There's a mafia, mafioneri, their familia, the family will never accept. So what are you doing? You're allowing the A become a dayan, and what you're going to do, you're going to push away the A that here in front of you saying a testimony, and you say, listen, I cannot accept you because I'm the A, I'm the judge, and I will not accept upon myself any criticism. He says, Mishpat Muhukol will come out. But this needs to understand. Why Mishpat Muhukol? Because both cases, when the A becomes a dayan, or when you tell me when Momonois, when you make the contract of Momonois, I don't need the stipulation of Zman v'Mokoim because I want to make the business to be easy, no bureaucracy, and I don't care for the future consequences that may happen, might not. Also here, when the A becomes a dayan, I don't have 18 Zoim standing here that I'm saying, listen, let them scream and I don't accept them. I have now a witness that says whatever he's saying, he wants to judge upon what he said. And maybe witnesses will come later on and they're alive. I don't want to accept them because I want to accept by myself. That's Mishpat Muhukol. But if it happens, it didn't happen. Both cases didn't happen. You're right. One is Mishpat Muhukol, one is not, because one says future consequences, and then maybe. And here I have two witnesses that scream and I don't accept it, but I don't have it yet. I have the A becomes a dayan. And maybe if witnesses will come and challenge him, I won't accept it. It's also maybe. Right? It's also maybe. So why this called Mishpat Muhukol? And the rabbis cared about it, and they nice the dayan b'doraisa, and they don't care that the din momanis would know mokim v'zman, even though it creates problems of Eidush Techolazim. What's the difference? What's the chiluk and svol?
I don't understand what he answers. I don't understand what the base salary is.
הוא החשש הוא בדיונים. הוא החשש שהיא...
איפה זה פה? אין nice the dayan?
אנחנו רוצים שבעיני העם, הדיינים יראו לנו שקלים. יכול להיות שלא יקבלו את העדות. החיסרון בעצם בדיינים, החשש שלנו זה שיהיה לנו בעיה בדיינים. וכל זה שמפקיד איזה חיסרון כללי, סתם בעיה בעצם העיר, לא בדיונים. אין לנו בעיה
מה ההבדל? מה ההבדל?
שיש לנו חיסרון בדיונים, אז אנחנו לא נגיד את זה. זה נראה שחיתות. מה שהדיינים עצמם עושים לעצמם דינים. הם מקבלים את מה שהם רוצים, מה שהם לא רוצים, הם שופטים את עצמם.
מה שנראה, או שזה משפט מורכב?
לא, זה משפט עקום. לא יכול להיות שמי שיפרוץ את בג"ץ, זה בג"ץ עצמם. לא יכול להיות כזה מצב שהבית דין עצמם, שיהיה להם בעיות, הם ישפטו את עצמם. אנחנו לא נאשר לכזה מקרה.
כי לא יקבלו.
כי לא יקבלו את עצמם. עצמם לא יקבלו.
נו, אז גם פה, שעד מהיר, אתה לא צריך דין, אתה לא צריך זמן ומקום, אתה בעצם אומר שהעדות הזאת...
לא, אתה אומר שבעדות, יש אולי חשש בעדות עצמה.
אז אתה אומר, אחד זה בדיונים, אחד זה בעדים, זה מה שהוא אומר, או זה חילוק שלך.
Potencial, e que é potencial das coisas.
Okay, so we have a pshat of it. The chiluk is, if it's in Eidim, that if Eidus, you say in Eidus and Mominus, you don't have to say time and Mokoim, time and place, because maybe we're not able to be challenged, okay, now we don't care. But if the aid becomes a dayan and the dayan will not accept the Eidim Zoymimim, so because they won't judge themselves, so then it becomes that the court is false. Now the rabbi is here. They don't care that the witness might not be challenged, but they do care that the judges cannot look bad. And why? Because judges is it's more the whole ma'arech, it's more wide, it's the whole system. So they look at the rabbis that permit themselves to have a wrong system, false system, that's what we kind of have. But if they're allowed to accept information, which might not be challenged, which makes it weak, now we don't. Okay, it's a small, now we leave it as that.
I don't understand.
He's saying, Reb Chaim is saying, the chiluk is Eidim or Dayon. Dinah Momonois, talk about Eidus of Dinah Momonois, I don't care. I don't care with people with Zman or Mokoim, because Latino and Dallas, they don't care that doesn't have Zman or Mokoim. No, the answer is the goal of the benefit of the cloud, having business and lending money and destroy the bureaucracy, overcomes that maybe we're not able to find. Maybe we cannot challenge it. We cannot challenge the. You know what? No, it's MS. What do you say? They'll be challenged, and then we're not able. We'll be stuck and able to challenge. We don't care to make a true contract. It's a contract here, even though it was not able to be challenged because there's a benefit, there's a bigger benefit. People lend money. One second. But basically do care that Ma'arechet HaMishpat, the system of the judge, which is that the judges, if the witnesses become judges and judges will not accept upon themselves, because they have the Eidim upon themselves, even though there's two witnesses. So you have two witnesses here saying they are the Eidim HaMuzomim and they are the Beis Din themselves. So the Beis Din will not accept them. So to have that the judges, not to be challenged, that Beis Din cares. But the witnesses, which is information, give them in order to create a better system. They don't care, even though it cannot be challenged. So he's saying the chiluk is one is the Eidim, one is the Beis Din. The Beis Din is more Ma'arechet, we don't care. I don't know if that's the chiluk, but I accept that. Maybe that's the truth. Work it out. Bezrat Hashem, we talk about the next week. Okay, work it out, Bezrat Hashem. I want to do Bezrat Hashem, this Beis Halevi well, and the Reb Kiva. There's a long Reb Kiva in the Shittus Haran, on the first page, the second page, please learn it. Shittus Haran, we spoke about it. I said it in my heart, I'm going to have a whole Kiva on it. Please learn it well, and we'll talk about it next week. I want to talk about some criticism, which are Torah Moshe Rabbeinu actually, gives B'nai God B'nai Reuven. It's a Gemara. B'nai God Reuven said to Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, we're going to, okay, Siyata Dishmai Musa Shmos. Okay. If you look in the Parshas Matois, there, B'nai God B'nai Reuven, they come to Moshe Rabbeinu and say, listen, we want the land, the east side of the Jordan River. What? Ever Ayala. You want it? No problem. We're going to fight. And Moshe Rabbeinu gives them T'nai Kodol HaMaaseh. Right? We learn all the din Tnoim from the Tnoim of Negod and Reuven, etc. But in the midst of all that, Rashi brings down a criticism against it. Rashi, Chazal, Gemara, Rashi. Rashi says that what was the problem? And the Torah actually starts by saying, "Umikne Rav Oyol Livnei Reuven Livnei God Atzum Me'od." The children of Gad and Reuven had a big amount of atzum, means an enormous amount of cattle, of animals. And they saw Vayoret Eretz Yaezer, Eretz Gilad, it's a Mokri Mikne. They said, listen, we want this is good for our flax, our animals, great. So Moshe Rabbeinu thought that they want to weaken the Jewish people. They don't want to come to fight against the 31 kings. He said, what do you want? You want your brothers to go to war and you're going to sit foot on foot and you're going to receive that? You're going to weaken the heart of your brothers? And he's giving a whole drosha why it's bad. So it says like this in Pasuk Tetzai. This is chapter 32, Pasuk Tetzai. Tetzai. Vayikshu Eila. They came over to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, Vayomu, Gidro is tzoi nivre lemikneinu poi. We're going to build cages, whatever it is, for animals. And cities to our little children and wives. And we're going to go and fight for the Jewish people first. And we're not going to come back until we conquer and settle all the land of Eretz Yisrael in the west. So comes Rashi and he says a criticism. They cared about their money more than their children and daughters. They put first their cattle before the children. Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu told them off. Loiken, that's not the way. Asua Iko, make the main. Tofel, and the minor. And first build cities for your children and wives. The Hakain Gidrois, that afterwards build cages to your animals.
Oh, that's corral.
Yes, old Rashi brings down Mendesh and Humazai.
Corral.
Noah Chaim explained there was an argument that the more make a chazaka and where the chazaka was with animals, so the way to control the quiet land was with animals. Need the chazor. And he explained that the whole machlokes is about that. But Lamaisa, the simple criticism when the Tachuma was, and Moshe Rabbeinu said they cared about the money more than themselves. Now, every morning we say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad. Ve'ahavta Hashem Elokecha, Yisrael Hashem all your heart, Chol Levavcha, Chol Nafshecha, all your soul, with Chol Moedecha, all your possessions. So Chazal is why you have to all your life, and all your possessions. If you're going to give your life, everything's included. What's life worth without? What's money worth without life? So if you're going to give your love Hashem with all your soul, means surely all your money. So why the Torah is talking about also all your money? Ooh, Rabbi Shmuel.
What did he say?
What Chazal answered. Chazal answered what Rabbi Shmuel told us, that some people love their money more than themselves. So I say, listen, not only do we have to give our lives, we have to give our money, because some people care about the money more than the life. Chasima mamonam yoter mi nafsham. So that people. So what is the criticism of Moshe Rabbeinu? Some people, and not only that, the Gemara says that tzaddikim, one second. The Gemara says that tzaddikim, the Gemara says, but Resh Lakish, what? I thought Resh Lakish, he left Kabbalah in Marika, he cried. Which Rabbi you meant to say?
Yochanan went from few putas that he stole.
Right, okay.
So you see that
the Gemara says, tzaddikim, chaviv aleim amoino. Why? Because they don't put their hands on stealing. Their money is very precious. Money just doesn't come from what?
They're little vessels.
I can't hear.
Bachim Ktanim.
Bachim Ktanim.
But that's not a country. That's not a country.
Chaviv aleim amoino, very much, right? They put themselves in danger. Bachim Ktanim, they don't steal. They went back at night and he got into fight with the angel. He almost died. Because they don't push them in the gas, they don't steal.
That's not a country to the family. It's just one point of value of money.
So we ask you, what is the criticism of Moshe Rabbeinu? Must be there's something deeper here. That Moshe Rabbeinu criticized. Hey, you bnei moving. When they call it Freud slip, my father says, came out of your mind. Who hears it? When you read it, you don't read it. No, we're going to build cages for our animals. And we're going to build cities for our wives and kids, and we're going to go to war. Okay, so they said cages before, so so what? What's wrong? And Moshe Rabbeinu says no. Oh, Moshe, that's not so. Not so. Why not? They don't steal, and whatever they have, they cherish. Says, don't worry, we take our money, and then afterwards our children. We're going to all fight a war. What's wrong? Says no, Osio iko make the main, va'atofel tofel. B'nu lochem tchilo arim, first build cities for your children and wives. V'achar and now it's cages. Skido is the tongue of the cabin. Must be that here in Yisrael is Israel and Chavivus. Yisrael Moshe Rabbeinu felt that they lost the point of the Chavivus of Eretz Yisrael. What was the fight? The Torah starts. They have a lot of cattle. Ubnei Gomer Oyulem Tsoin Atzum Me'oy. That's more. That's what Torah says. They have an enormous amount of cattle. Right? That's what the Torah starts. Umikne Rav Oy Livnei Ruven. They got Atzum Me'oy. Mikne Rav, a lot of cattle. And mightiness, Atzum Me'oy, a lot. Not only a lot more, a lot, Atzum. It's another language. A huge amount. So now, what's the problem? Why Nisayona Osher Gelon Nisayona? Why the test of wealth is stronger than the test of being poor? Because, what do you mean? A lot of people say, I want to become rich. I'm rich, I'll give a lot of money to tzedakah, and I'll do a lot of chesed, a lot of mitzvahs. I want to be rich. I can do more mitzvahs. I can do more things, more for Hashem. But what happens? You say, no. Don't desire that. Hashem gives you riches, okay, but it's a bigger test. Why it's a bigger test? Because when you have a lot of money, true, you can do a lot of chesed and a lot of mitzvahs, but you can be very easily attached to it, to the physical. You forget about Hashem. And you're going to do chesed and mitzvahs as with a return, with an interest, get you covered. Forget about Hashem anymore. Forget about your early desires when you were poor, you dreamed to do chesed and all that. It's time to become yourself. One time I went to Chaim Kanievsky. I told that to him a few times. And I asked him a bracha for my family member to become rich. He says, I'll give 20% of my meiser if Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky promised me riches. I said, the Goy Mevila brings it down. Chazal promised riches. So I went to Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky. He said, no. He says, he gave me a mushla of the Makim Miduvno. Somebody had a field next to a river. And he prayed, Hashem, 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 let the river overflow and flow my field. I have to work hard and my apples will be giant. I'm able to sell for more money, become rich. What Hashem did, listen to his prayers. And a lot of rain came down, the river flooded, and his field had tremendous water and broke, and all the fruits were giant and fruity and juicy. They were able to sell a lot of money, getting wealthy. What happened? When the summer came and the water dried out, he sees his field filled with thorns and pieces of glass and dirt and pieces of plastic and bottles, who knows what. He says, when you have wealth, also a lot of bad midos come with it. So he says, who says he should desire wealth? I was shocked. I was afraid I wanted to come back to my family and tell me, I just like cursed that. Oh, he's for sure not. He said, what do you want wealth? Wealth is dangerous. Yes, they want to settle the land of Israel. They have a huge amount of cattle. So the way to settle it is build. They have kids, but they have huge amount of animals. So where's more of chazok as Orach said? I'm not saying the point of Orach, but where more shows of your desire to settle the land of Eretz Yisrael. You care about here in this land. I can fill up. I can have so much space and grass, and for my animals, I can really hold on to Eretz Yisrael in a big way. Mitzvahs. What?
The hilltops.
Oh, the hilltops. So this is perfect for me to Mekayim a Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Right? Wow, they sound great speaking. Right? But they had a slip. Freud slipped. Moshe Rabbeinu caught it. Hey, when you said, when I told him, listen, why are you going to move away the Jewish nation? He sounds like you don't want to go to fight. You should have answered, don't worry, Rabbi. We're going to put our wives and kids alone, and we'll take care of our animals, and we're going to fight. And we're not going to, means we're here to settle the land. We're going to fight for our brothers, to settle us and ourselves. But when you talked about your animals before your children and families, in that sense, in the value, it means suddenly it's not the value of the settlement of Israel, it's money. It's money making. I'm taking care of my money. That's you took the toffel to Iker and Iker toffel. That's what you have to put in the context of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. This is very important yesod of chasam amoin. A person, a tzaddik, that doesn't steal is chasam amoin. But if you see the guy, he's going crazy, frantic about somebody touches his money, a little bit of usage, say, hey, you're too rechushan, you're too attached. Too attached. That's the not to be attached. The yesod is when Moshe Rabbeinu Hashem is teaching us in this parasha that the Bnei Gad were big tzaddikim, and actually they fulfilled this condition. They went and fought for 7 years. They left the family and kids, 14 years, Diaspora Yeshiva, and only after 14 years they came back home. Imagine, it's a big journey to make such a. You go to all those days in the Second World War, First World War, Australian soldiers went to Africa, went to this, and they go for years. Like Russia, a soldier had 10 years, 15 years, they went so many years. It's a big commitment. So if your goal is Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, it's a big thing. Your goal is money, and says, I don't care. Somebody can make court. I don't care to cheat the government with money. I get the millions. I don't care to sit in jail 10 years. I feel millions. which means he doesn't get to sit, and he's going to sit in jail for 10 years. And for him, the pain of 10 years is nothing because money is so big for him. The dream of money is so big that the pain of 10 years, 15 years of jail is nothing. I met a couple of people. They said, what? You're not afraid? He says, no, I don't care. Give me the money, I'll do it. You sit in jail there, no, don't worry. I don't care. What I'm doing anyhow now, instead of working every day from morning to 9 to 5, I'll be sitting in jail waiting. Not to be a rich man. You'll be already old. I don't care, but I don't have the money. So that's what I'm shaking. Is mamoina more than Google. His money is more than his life. Hashem wants us to have life more than money. What is life? It's mitzvahs, Hashem, and Torah, not to be attached. I'm going to say now something which is not no get to this, but it's very important to say it in public. A lot of avrichim fall into akitzot. Akitzot means they're being stabbed.
Being what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed.
How? So listen, come, I have a new way how to make money. Come, I can invest money with me in Africa and I'll find you gold. It's really yesterday. So, my mom. And with this, you invest in this building there, we make a flip, you make a lot of money, and people are so hungry to money. I'm going to say a little bit word what I'm saying now. And they fall in, they lose all the money. Money, they sell their houses. This is very common. Yes, very common. Sure, unfortunately, nobody should be a part of that. I met many guys who lost their life and why that divorce. But really, the shoyish is not that they're about taiva for money. It's not that. It's other. Because the whole life they've been learning in yeshiva. And the whole life is they learned that they don't care about money. Money doesn't mean much for them. The ikar is the spiritual life. And they see another guy, they totally think that he is like them. And the same way they trust themselves or another column member because they think what they're in their world and money's not the main issue. So they right away trust, they think that this guy's the same. And they trust fully him like they trust the people. Wait a minute, I won't be trustworthy if somebody gives me money. I'll never steal ever in my life. So what do you do on Torah? When I think about Yiras Shamayim and do Hashem's will, I mean, is to cheat and rhyme. No. So they think that the other people around them are on the same level. That's what they think. It is a very strong part of this falling down. We have to know there are a lot of people outside now learning Torah. It's very dangerous. And rip you off the pieces. Hashem should give us a bracha to have the value, not to push it begetzel, and to give us a bracha. Adel Yiskadei Shemei Abo. No what say me I'm going to say. I go to go me find the whole day Israel. Ah Golov is my kori Oh, Mishnah, Mishnah, Mishnah say, Isado, Isalevi, Salom, Shmei the Kodeshov, Lay down, you call the Gosam, Shimon, Amiron no more Ali Swoy Balabonon, Baltamidion, Baltamidin, Samidion, Bal Coleman, Oski Moaz, Sakadishwa, Sasa, Leon Consumo, Bokina, Rakamin, China becomes a little who gone because of our woman. Home in Shmaya, Himolay, says for Yasaka, Molino, Police woman.
Much later.
Not everybody's like us.
Jewish community. Famous joke of his. Somebody held him up. He says, "For money or life."
A joke. What are you?